Hello, everyone, and welcome to Conquer the Clutter for, my gosh, a very, very unseasonable June 19th, 2024. My heart goes out to anybody in the south of the US, which it seems that is mostly on fire, and the west of Canada, where the forest fires are starting spontaneously. But we are here and we are going to face other issues. All right. So I have a bit of an exciting thing that I want to introduce you to. I was out at, I won't mention oh, maybe I will. I was out at Chapters Indigo and I was just kind of schmoozing the shelves, thinking, while I'm here, I'll just see if there's anything that fits. It's really well reviewed for any of the topics that you folks have sent me information in the chat about wanting to know more about. And I came across this very innocuous looking little book, just a tiny little book on the shelves. And this, all right, is dynamite. This book is dynamite. All right. Oh, you did. You got it. Okay. And I have been indulging myself in diving into it. And I think that this, how the only other book, other than my own, of course, in audiobook format as well, with a free website with all the tools and resources on it that you can have in perpetuity. And Procrastination is probably the only other book I've ever really, really recommended. I've said books are good, and I've told you what they have that fits with the different issues that we're talking about. This is the next one. All right. And to that, as I progressed through chapter 1, and I gave a copy to one of my clients who I want to highlight right now. All right. And she said it's okay. Gary, Gary attends our podcast. Well, everybody, we want prayers for Gary. A week ago, Tuesday, Gary had a stroke and she's hospitalized right now. And she's working on regaining her right side. So prayers and positive thoughts. If you don't pray, that's okay. That's up to you. But positive thoughts and energy to Gary. Good news. Um, she can now lift her right foot, which was like gone, 6 inches. So there's a lot of hope, but I know that, and I asked her if it was okay if I mentioned it at the podcast because she's a regular member, just like all of you. And this group, whether you're 75 or you're 33 and climbing right now, is a little community unto its own. Okay. So about the mountain is you. Having finished chapter 1 with a dive deep, I purchased, and this is not hoarding, I purchased 5 copies. Right. And the reason I purchased 5 copies is because I'm going to do something that I have never done before. And that is, I want people, those people who would be interested in not just flipping through it, but really to look at transforming what is called self-sabotage into self-mastery. That's kind of a little bit of a dramatic overstatement, but the self-sabotage is a little like procrastination. It's been given a bad rap, all right? And self-sabotage is not actually self-sabotage. That's a very negative term. We are inadvertently choosing that option for very good reasons. And the reasons and what to do about it is in this book. So my having bought 5 copies was about not wanting, my motto is as much as I can, not leaving anyone behind. If you are somebody who attends this group regularly and you would actually use this book to find answers to questions that you have for yourself in your life and to help you transform those into better options for yourself, then I am prepared. I would like people to leave their name, all right, in the chat if they're interested in having one of these 5 books. And I will mail, you're going to have to put your address. I will mail them to you. But here's the deal, all right? The deal is that you take no more than 2 months to really dive deeply into the material in this book and use it for your own advantage. And then you send the book back to me, and I send it to the next 5 people on the list who are not able, for whatever reason, you can't get out to stores, you don't buy on Amazon, whatever it is, you can't afford it. All right, you just can't afford the book. We will make ourselves a little bit of a rotating library to make sure that everybody who is interested in reading the book for more than passive purposes gets a crack at the book. All right. I would ask you, however, make your notes on pads, not in the columns of the book. Okay, that might be a little too much self-exposure. All right, so onward and upward. Let me just get myself moving forward here. All right, so I want to give full credit to Brianna Wiest, who is the author of this book. And this is a fabulous little black book because this book is truly, really, truly a wake-up call that will inspire hope, and especially hope in the face of adversity. All right. And it goes on to say that you're invited to burn the rules of what you've been taught about yourself as you awaken that part of you that will fight for you. All right. And to consciously develop and choose a new narrative. And ultimately, that narrative will create a deep desire, all right, for you to follow the path that begins to open up because you are giving yourself permission to investigate, try, and practice new options for the ways that you right now feel that you might be self-sabotaging. All right. So this will be our goal as we work together. And the content of this book is going to be basically not the content, but I'm going to pick concepts every week for the next many weeks. All right. And we're going to discuss those concepts and how we can enrich our ability to face the concept and choose a new narrative that we're willing to try, we're willing to practice. All right. Because that is going to lead you down the path that brings you to this podcast every single week. All right. This is, remember, I've said many, many times, this is not just an exercise in hanging out and listening to me drone on. This is an exercise in being presented different concepts and then the strategies to give you a start to finding the ones that work for you best. All right. Okay. So let me just get myself zeroed in here. Yeah, that. All right. So I don't want to, I'm going to trust you on the fact that you will return the book within 2 months and all of that. And I don't want to undermine Brianna Weiss's work and her right to be reimbursed for the work she's done. But I also want to offer this lending, 5-book lending, rotating lending library for the people who were never going to get a chance. All right. It isn't an opportunity for you to save the cost of the book. If you can afford to buy the book, go buy the book. All right. It's well worth it. All right. But if that was never going to be an option for you for whatever private reasons are true for you, then you're the people I want to make that list of to make sure you don't get left behind. And I'm as sure as I can after reading chapter 1 of Brianna's book, she'd be on board with that, I'm pretty sure. Okay. So don't forget to put your name in if you really can't manage getting the book. I want to see you get it. All right. Now, I just want to, okay. I have to get myself here. Okay. Are you ready? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to present various concepts, all right, entirely from the book. And then we're going to discuss them. And then sometime in the fall, once you've really started to kind of chew on this, from the content of the podcast every week, and you're reading the book, I'm going to do a 12-week workshop on the concepts and moving forward with the work to be done. That's the whole purpose for this book, The Mountain Is You. Okay. All right. Concept number 1. Fulfilling our deepest potential, all right, along with the greatest rewards, comes less from outcomes. The outcomes are not the most important thing we gain by working hard to reach our deepest, most private dream or wish or goal, and tapping into our potential. All right. It's not the outcome that is the biggest win. It is more who we must become, how we change, and who we must become in order to achieve what we know we're truly capable of. And remember, I have said many times in the past, if you can conceive of it, you are capable of achieving it. You cannot imagine something and develop the desire for it if you do not have the basic potential. All right. Because our mind, our body, our energy are always working to heal us and to support us, even when it seems like a challenge. So, what do you think of that? All right. What do you think of that? And I want you to put your thoughts about, is it true? Do you actually believe that entertaining the possibility that your deepest wish, your deepest goal, all right, maybe one you've never even really articulated, or you kind of, when it comes up in your mind, you kind of scoot it somewhere else. Yeah, okay, I'll get to that. Okay, yeah, okay, that'd be a good idea. And you minimize it. So you kind of take it out of priority and put it in. It's at the bottom of the to-do list. All right. Do you believe, though, that there is a path you need to follow in order for you, all right, to become changed in some fundamental way that smooths that path? Or do you, and have you, maybe over the past many years, have you kind of thought that the win was the improvement, the end result. Do you realize that any end result we have is always going to be in transition, because we're in transition all the time? Hopefully today you are a slightly different person from the person you were yesterday. You learned something, you tried something, you know something you will never do again. All right. It's not always just the positive, isn't always about achieving the positive. Sometimes it's learning from the negative. All right. I won't repeat that one again. All right. That was a non-starter. Do you believe that that process of changing who you are and who you will become in tiny little ways of growth and development, do you realize that's the win? Because that stays with you and it gives you the foundation to dare to try something new again. Do you? All right. Okay. Who believes that? Who believes that really it's the end product? And who believes, those tiny little ways you change and grow, or learn not to do something, learn not to take that option, is really the point of transformation. And that then paves the path and enables you to walk it with more resilience and more endurance, more perseverance. The person who perseveres is the person who gets to the end goal. All right. So right now, think for a moment and see if you can come up with your favorite ways of putting yourself on hold. What are the little things that crop up that seem benign, maybe? All right. But they keep cropping up. They're repetitious and they get in the way. I'm going to start you off with one of mine. All right. I have discovered that sometime around 4:30, my goal to drop some pounds becomes infinitely less important. All right. And I've noticed that pattern. I never noticed it before. All right. But reading this book I'm starting with easy things, because there's none of us that can't transform ourselves and get even deeper into the good that is there for us. And so just keeping an eye on, what am I doing? Like, what is it I'm choosing? And it doesn't have to be a fault, but what am I choosing that takes me off the path? And I found around 4:30, I'm thinking, where are the cookies? All right. Where's something sweet? Just a little something sweet. All right. So this week, the dogs and I switched to blueberries. All right. Now we're going through blueberries at a real rate, I have to tell you. But that's part of the transition as well. And I don't mean to reduce the importance or, try to make it a joke, but real progress starts small and keeps building. Right now, if you would please, on the paper and pen that I ask you to keep handy, would you write down one thing that is important to you? So it's a biggie. It's a big thing that's important to you. And one thing that you are wondering, or maybe you already know, gets in the way. It's sort of like it promises to be a shortcut, but actually it becomes a diversion and you're off the path. What is the one thing you want to change or you want to develop? And is there one thing, there may be more, but is there one thing that you realize, why am I not getting there? For individuals who are decluttering, let's start with getting started. Okay. Now, getting started sounds so benign, but getting started is the hardest part. Getting this in gear, this can be nagging the heck out of you, all right? Or finishing the job. Don't put it down, put it away. Just do it now. It never gets easier. What is the one thought, the one temptation, the one option that you find gets in the way and you end up distracted away from what you were trying to move forward on? What is it? Put it down on your paper now, okay? One thing, because I want this work in between our sessions, our podcasts, I'm reading like a demon, and I am developing this material for you. So I want you to carry a little, I want you to have some skin in the game too. And I don't want this podcast to be just about you sit and listen to me drone on. Oh, that's really interesting. That's inspiring. And then it goes nowhere. All right. I want you to actually chew on it. So what is the thing you need to chew on right now? And I want you to keep an eye on that this week. Okay, now, so the question then is, how are you going to develop being a slightly different person this week? A slightly different person. How are you going to do that? What is the one thing that you're going to practice? And it may not move you further down that path of the goal you want, but even if it just saves you from being distracted, all right, that in itself is progress, not losing ground. And then not having to beat yourself up and call yourself all kinds of negative names, all right? That's also progress. Okay, concept 2. Where did my concept 2 go? Here it is right here. Okay. So life is very often, this is a biggie. This is a biggie. So everybody pay attention on this one, okay? You might even want to write it down. Life is very often working in our favor, even when it seems like we're only being faced with adversity, discomfort, and change. Read that one again. Life, our life, is very often working in our favor, even when it seems like we're only being faced with adversity, discomfort, and change. All right. Sometimes I have found, and it's only later that you can reflect and see, you know what, if those horrible things hadn't happened, or those negative things that felt like I'm talking major setback here, all right, to the point that your little heart was going like this, right? If that hadn't happened, I wouldn't be where I am right now. And I couldn't possibly know that. I couldn't possibly know that in advance. So our life is very often working in our favor, even when it seems like we're only being faced with adversity, discomfort, and change. One of the things I would encourage you to do, all right, that's in Conquer the Clutter, is anytime something adverse happens, right, at the same time, you're probably very intensely aware of that because your body's reacting, your mind is reacting. Okay, fine and dandy. I don't want you to do a Pollyanna trip here. We're not talking about turn the lights out and pretend everything's wonderful. But I am saying at the same time, to add balance, make yourself consciously be aware, because it is present. I promise you, at my age, this has happened so many times that I swear this is the truth. All right. And it helps you to keep yourself buoyed up, to add balance, something positive, something lovely, something good, something to sustain you is also available in the same time frame. Just when you're being feels like wiped out to sea, okay? Just pause, hold tight, and look for anything that is a positive, is beautiful, is something that is enjoyable. It could be anything. And that will help you realize this really negative thing I'm feeling or experiencing is true. It's real, but it's never, ever, ever the whole story. It's never the whole story. So don't let it be the whole story. Don't let the negative be the entirety of your awareness and the entirety of your energy and the entirety of your hope. All right? Where is that little glimmer of light? In the book, I mentioned being in one of the worst periods of my life. It was like the 1, 2, 3 punch. And I thought, oh, Lord. And then that sunrise sounds so hokey, but you had to be there, because when it's real and it's positive, it jumps on you. All right. It jumps on you and it just infuses you. Sometimes it's the smell of something. It could be any one of our senses that are picking it up. It could be a memory that you have. You're facing some really negative situation, and a memory, a flash goes by of somebody from the past who loved you, who believed in you, why would they come to your mind then? Because your mind, your body, and your energy is always, always, always trying to heal you and support you. Let it be. Don't scoot it away. Let the positives in too. Face the negatives, they're real, but let the positives in too, because the negative is never the whole story. How many people believe that? How many people have experienced that or something like that? Thumbs up. It's the best way, the surest way, and remind yourself of it. It's a skill, because the negative can be overwhelming. All right. Don't let it overwhelm you. It's only one part of the story. It's only one part of the story. And it cannot last forever. The good, the bad, the indifferent keep moving. Even the worst never lasts forever. All right. Hard to believe that at the time. Okay. So, concept 3. This is a biggie. I know I said the last one was a biggie, but this is a biggie too. This whole book is full of biggies. All right. When you choose to no longer, listen to me now, when you choose to no longer rely on the coping mechanism that you're using to help distract you from the problems in life, it can feel as though you've hit rock bottom. The reality is that this situation is a sort of an awakening. And it happens when we finally come to terms with the problems that have existed for a long time. Let's go back and look at that. It's funny how situations seem to repeat, okay? Every so often, do you ever find yourself saying to yourself, I think I've been here before and I didn't like it the last time. Okay, it's one of those moments, but it could be even bigger. We have developed coping mechanisms. Now, my 4 o'clock coping mechanism was to convince myself that it was a really good idea to take the advice of something in a book that said dark chocolate really helps. I'm not a big chocolate person. And if I'm going to eat chocolate, it's going to be milk chocolate. All right. Preferably with some caramel. All right. However, I went out and got a supply of dark chocolate. Mm. And do you know what? Chocolate is never the answer because it feeds into the coping mechanism that I had settled for, that was always keeping me just a little off track. Despite my best efforts, 23 other hours of the day, all right, that was my coping mechanism. Just a little something sweet. You ever noticed how that little something sweet is never quite enough? All right. Yeah. Okay. So thanks to this book, I thought, you know what we need to no longer rely on our coping mechanism, Elaine, because it is just distracting us from that thing that happens to you regularly about 4 or 4:30 every day. All right. And do you realize that when you no longer rely on that, it can feel, now that there's no chocolate of any kind, no sweets of any kind in the house, all right, and any that come in the house, everybody else in the house has a limited time to eat them. And if they would please hide them, that's great. Because in that time frame, all right, it does feel like you are maybe not hit rock bottom, but you're under-resourced to break the habit. Why? You habituated it. Remember, we talked before about the brain, and the brain is really not as smart as we've given it credit for. It really just is a sorting process of all the options we've ever taken, and it knows us and it wants us to be happy and it wants us to be successful, and it's trusting us to have chosen things before. Our coping mechanisms. What are your coping mechanisms right now? What are the coping mechanisms that get in the way of you accomplishing something that brings you to this podcast every week? And I'd love to have you. When you achieve what you want to achieve, I still want you to come because now you've got a lot to offer the next guy who's struggling. All right. But when we no longer rely on those coping mechanisms, it can feel like we're seriously under-resourced and we've hit rock bottom. However, that actually is progress because we have to go through that point. And the reality is, going through that point of under-resourced, now what? Find something else. Don't rely on the past coping mechanism. It's a sort of awakening. It is not always comfortable. All right. I would like the simplicity of 2 cookies. However, if I keep that, I'm going to stay where I am. Right? It's just a little hiccup. What other thing are you telling yourself? All right. The reality is that going through that, breaking through the rock bottom, the feeling of under-resourced, not the right answer, is what happens when we finally come to terms with the problems that have existed for a long time. So when you experience that feeling, all right, know that actually is progress. It is a definite phase that we all have to go through as we break through the barrier of the thing that's holding us back. A poorly adapted, poor choice, coping mechanism. What is holding you back right now? That dream you have, that goal you have, all right? What is holding you? What coping mechanism or mechanisms are you using right now? Are there any that are actually working that you sabotage? Now, sabotage is a negative word, but you know what? No one else is doing it. We are the architect of our future. So, are there any that aren't working well enough? And it's time to face that breaking through the barrier, uncomfortable phase, which then will generate other, and I do not recommend dark chocolate, okay, as a substitute. So, all I'm saying is coping mechanism, breaking through the barrier. Because it's uncomfortable, because it's upsetting, because it's discouraging, because it's something negative, doesn't mean you should resist it or avoid it. It can't last forever. So one of the things that I found, and I'm trying it out, I'll let you know how well it works, is move dinner up an hour so that I lessen the time that I have to go through that uncomfortable thing I've habituated with just a little bit of sugar. All right. But who knew? The breakdown, okay, that negative period as we're going through the barrier, the breakdown, is often just the tipping point that just precedes the breakthrough. That feeling of bumping your head and negative, uncomfortable, discouraged, if you just keep pressing on, all right? It usually is the tipping point that then allows you and precedes the breakthrough. And as I was doing this exercise and I was reading this concept in the book, and it kind of made me stop and think more deliberately, I remembered something. Remember I said you don't have to keep everything? And if you keep a million cards from whoever, if they're gone, they're gone. But they're never really gone because everything positive and negative that you learned that you have to work with is there. As I was doing this, I had a recollection of my mother standing in the kitchen. It was like a flash moment. And she was saying, Elaine, don't give up. The answer, the success, the answer could be the next thing you try. Never give up. It might be the very next thing you try or the thing after that. Now, isn't that funny? Okay. Isn't that funny? My mother died in 1985. But the richness of everything I've learned, and this is true for you too, everything you know to be true, every good thing, every kindness, every person, every comment they made, believing in you, having faith in you, forgiving you, loving you, is there. You've got it stowed away. It's yours. And some of that will come to you. All right. Some of that will come to you when you need it the most. There's no reason why it wouldn't. Okay. Concept 4. Just as all mountains are formed When two sections of the ground are forced against one another, I'll read it again. Just as all mountains are formed, when two sections of the ground are forced against one another, your mountain, the thing that's holding you back, will arise. It will happen. It will create itself out of coexisting but conflicting needs. So you will have at least two needs that coexist and are at war with one another, are in conflict with one another. That's what will generate the breakthrough. That's what will generate the mountain. All right. So you have two coexisting needs that are in conflict with each other, and they create the barrier, the mountain. Here's the thing. Your mountain requires you to reconcile two parts of yourself. So there are two needs in conflict, and you need the work to be done, not to continually face the mountain and have it win, is to reconcile those two parts of yourself. And those two parts of yourself are, write this down, the conscious and the unconscious. The thing you are aware of. I've got that little niggling thing again about, it's 4 o'clock, 4:30. And the unconscious, don't go for sugar. It's counterproductive. Don't do it. Yeah, but we need it. Yeah, but we don't have another way to handle this really uncomfortable kind of, it almost like an intrusive thought. All right. The part of you that is aware of what you want, that goal, that desire, and the part of you that is not aware of why you're still holding yourself back, those are the two that are in conflict. So let's do a little bit of a deep dive here, okay? So if you have to reconcile on this goal that you've got written down there, two parts, the conscious, the unconscious. What part of you is aware of what you want? Can you access that part? Can you say to yourself, I want this because? Can you say that about your goal? I want this because. That's the conscious part. Okay. Now, can you say to yourself, so why am I, after all the wishing, all the hoping, all the work, all the whatever, of being here every week, why isn't it happening? What's holding me back? What is holding me back? Do you have some idea of what is holding you back? If you don't, here's a good way to start discovering it. Write down, pick something concrete. Maybe it's working on a pile. Maybe it's finishing a job. All right, we'll make it concrete. I know it's more boring, but it's practical. Okay, so I want to clean my bedroom. All right, I want to pick everything up. I want to put it away. I want to decide what fits. I want to da 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 da. All right, I want it done. Okay, what's holding you back? I don't know what's holding me back. I can't get started. I zone out. I end up in front of Netflix. Okay. Now ask yourself, a really good way to track what's holding you back is to stop, put everything on hold, all things are possible, and ask yourself, what am I saying to myself? as I'm making this observation that I want to do this is a goal, all right? What am I saying to myself? Because what I'm saying to myself, there's some element of what I'm saying to myself that is giving me the authority, the permission, the reason. Yeah, but you're tired. Yeah, whatever. Don't judge it. Don't judge it. It's not a negative. Listen to it. What are you saying to yourself that ends up in you not doing the goal you've set? Write it down. Write it down the best you can. I want to do this. I want to get this done. Okay. And I keep coming back and I know I want to get it done. And every time I go to start it, I end up distracted. I end up realizing how tired I am. What am I saying to myself? Write it down. Write down what you're saying to yourself. Because in that message to yourself is the key. Now, here's something that I want us all, because in these struggles, whether it's about, a sugar craving at 4 to 4:30, or whether it's clutter, whether it's hoarding, whether it's something else, all right? The fact that we're imperfect, as we all are, is not a sign, and don't let it be, that you've failed. When you encounter your imperfections, all right, you're actually encountering your humanity. And more importantly, the fact that you are imperfect is not a sign that you failed. It's a sign that you still have more potential within you. You know why? Because being aware of the gap, of the imperfection, means that you are also aware that that is something that you need to, but you also want to work on. And you would not acknowledge, your mind, your body, your energy, your life force isn't going to waste itself on something that is a non-starter. All right. If you're imagining you'd like to be a brain surgeon, it's probably because you have some capability to be at least something that approximates that. If you are someone who has a goal and a dream and a desire to have a home that is, when I say clutter-free, I want to say a healthy, happy level of occasional disorder, okay? We're not looking for perfection here. Nobody's taking pictures for magazines. So, and if you want to you want to go from hoarding to minimalist, I want you to look up the word perfectionism, all right? And then I want you to take a deep breath, because that perfection, one of the reasons you're not starting it is because at some level that is not going to hold. All right, that is going to disappear so fast, it's not worth the effort to go to the other extreme. But we cannot imagine something and have the taste for it. We can't imagine something that we don't have the capability of at least reasonably approximating that thing we dream of. Your mind, your body, your life energy isn't going to waste itself on a pipe dream. And if you're imperfect, join the crowd. That is what you are, imperfect just as you were meant to be. It doesn't mean you're a failure. Don't make it into, don't give that the meaning. You can disable yourself by doing that. Okay? Maybe you know what your mountain is. Maybe you know. All right? Maybe you know what the mountain is. Maybe part of the mountain is living with ADHD, living with anxiety, living with depression, living with addiction, living with chronic disorganization, all right, trauma. Maybe the mountain is hoarding. Maybe its relationship isn't something you know exactly why and how it happens. All right? Maybe you know what your mountain is. Maybe you've got a few, maybe not one big mountain, maybe you got a few little mountains. Join the crowd. All right? Pick one. Chances are they're smaller than one big one. All right, that may be an advantage. Maybe. Not trying to Pollyanna it here. All right. But maybe you don't know yet exactly what your mountain is. Maybe it's a vague sense of anxiety. All right. Maybe that's what distracts, sucks the energy out of you. All right. Maybe it's low self-esteem. I've tried so many times. I just don't know that I can do this. Maybe it's fear. Or maybe it's a general discontent, just that low level, drains the energy, drains the focus, distracts. You're looking for a distraction like I'm looking for something sweet between 4 and 4:30 every day. One isn't any better or any worse than the other. They're both going to get in your way. All right. Do you know how much weight you can gain just losing it between 4 and 4:30 every day? All right. So it's not a minimal thing like, oh, isn't that cute? No, it isn't cute at all. All right. It's a real thing. And so is yours. Respect it. But the fact that you can conceive of it means that you are capable of dealing with it. Uncover it. Don't judge it. Don't judge it and don't judge yourself. Deal with it. Okay? Because that general kind of vague, get distracted, it seems to bleed out into everything else. It sucks the energy. It sucks the ability to focus. Here's the last one for the day. Your mountain is often less a challenge in front of you than it is a problem within you. All right, based on a lack of stability in our foundation. And it might not, that lack might not seem evident on the surface. All right, we might go through life being able to cover, but that lack, that little needs work piece of our foundation, the thing we need to firm up a little more so that we're calling the shots, it's not calling the shots, is nonetheless shifting almost every part of your life. Why? Because if you don't know what it is and you don't name it, chances are you can't see it in action before it gets the jump on you. And it's not bigger or more powerful than you are. The only thing that gives it that power to influence you is the fact that you have habituated that coping mechanism. If right in the beginning, I had the foresight. Don't try to feed this thing between 4 and 4:30. Don't do that. Do something else, right? It wouldn't be as big an intrusion as it is, as big a potential disruptor as it is. I gave it the power by habituating it, by taking, for me, the easy way out. Feed it. Just make it go away. Do what I need to make. No, now I'm facing it down. What is it for you? What would you say one of your big need to firm up the foundation here things are? And as somebody's just said, physical, mental health issues? All right. But by feeding it, I've got news for you. It's not in charge. All right. Your physical health, your mental health, and we're not talking 100% recovery here. We're talking little tiny baby steps. All right. Little tiny today. Handle it today. Handle it for half an hour today. Handle it for 10 minutes today on a regular basis. Your mental and physical health isn't going to get better by letting it drag you around, disrupting what you want most. 2 minutes a day, every day, you say, I'm in charge. You do one thing and you build from there. Usually when we have a problem, all right, know this, all right? How do you know whether it's just life? We're going to end on this. Usually when we have a problem that's kind of circumstantial, it's a matter of the atmosphere, the environment, it's circumstances, right? What we're actually facing is the reality of life. All right. We're all now in heat beyond belief. Everybody who's at this podcast is sweating like you know what, right? Okay. So that's a problem. If it's just circumstantial, it happens once in a while and it's due to circumstances. You know, when you get a headache when the barometric pressure increases, that's circumstantial. All right. That kind of the environment circumstances. Okay. That's just the reality of living your life. But when we have a problem that's chronic, all right, we're usually facing the reality of ourselves. So if you don't want this thing, it's not happening because of circumstances beyond your control. Mental and physical health are not beyond our control. We don't have absolute control either, but we certainly can influence it. Okay? We certainly can influence it. We're usually facing the reality of ourselves. And we often think to face a mountain means to face life's hardships. But the truth is that it's almost always because of years and years that we have spent accumulating and not dealing with tiny injuries, tiny hurts, tiny traumas, tiny ways we've adapted to it instead of confronting it. And out of all of that, it will always be because of coping mechanisms that we have settled for. All of which, all right, all of those things compound over time. Please, whatever you've written down on that pad of paper today, okay, today, you decide when and how much time you can manage, you can promise yourself to try to cope differently. in a more adaptive way. It might be 1 minute, it might be 2 minutes, it might be 5 minutes, it might be 15 minutes. Those small, gradual steps done regularly are you claiming your space, you moving forward on that path to the goal you're looking for, that you're seeking. And it is there waiting for you. It is there waiting for you. And I'm going to see you next week, and we are going to start on concept 6, which is your mountain is the block between you and the life you want to live. That's where we're going to pick it up next week. You take care, everyone. Make it a good one.
Can you do it? Yes, you can.